Thank you. So we will do a roll call. Blake, Merle,
Here.
Robert, Glenn,
Here.
Jenny, here, Kelsey, here, Crystal, chair here. All right, and then if you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And then we will give the new board member oath of office. Does it show okay here? Do you want to come up here? Where would you like him? Do you want him up there? No? Okay. Can you see okay on the screen? Is anybody know? You good? Yeah, okay, raise it right here. I, Blake Nelson,
I, Blake Nelson,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
do solemnly swear
Or affirm
or affirm
that I will support
that I will support the Constitution of
the United States, the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the laws thereof,
and the laws thereof,
and the policies of the North Marion School
and
District.
the policies of the North Marion School District.
During my term, I will faithfully
During my term, I will faithfully
and impartially discharge the responsibilities
and impartially discharge the responsibilities
of the office of the school board member
of the office of the school board member
to the best of my
to the
ability.
best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Blake.
Thank you.
Okay, I will open it for agenda consideration. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have any public comment? None. All right, and then we'll go to board action item. The first one is board election designations and meeting schedule. You open yours so I can see it. Oh, yeah. So. Thank you. And we will start with our annual procedures. So I printed off this little quick tip sheet on how that, based on the Roberts Rules of Orders, and I had sent an email for information only about what the OSBA says and stuff. And so I just printed this off and I've asked it to be included, since it's a printed document in a public meeting, into the minutes. But so we'll call it to order. So the meeting is called to order to designate the chair and the vice chair. So first off, I will call for nominations of the chair. Are there any nominations?
I nominate you, Crystal Rostuson, Director Rostuson.
Thank you. And any other nominations? All right. So after the nominations are closed, last call, any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. Crystal Rostusil is nominated. And if there is one nomination, then we will proceed by a voice vote only. And do I hear any move to bring the nominee to a vote?
I would make a motion that we accept you as our chair, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says we use ballot or roll call, and then we would move to bring me to a vote. As Crystal Ross still vote for chair.
Okay. So everybody would vote aye, right? Or nay,
Yeah.
whatever they choose.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and do a roll call. So Blake,
Aye.
Merle,
Aye.
Robert is not here. Glenn,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
Kelsey,
Aye.
Crystal. Aye. All right, that piece is closed. So we will vote for, we'll call for nominations of the vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I would nominate Jenny.
Or
Makes sense.
is there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing no further nominations, the nominations are closed. Do I hear a motion to bring the nominee to a vote?
I'll make a motion, we bring Jenny to a vote for vice chair for 25-26 school year.
Thank you. So we'll vote by roll call. Blake,
Aye.
Merle,
Aye.
Robert? It's not here yet. Glenn,
Aye.
Jenny?
Yeah, aye.
Kelsey? Crystal votes for. So we still have Crystal Rossisol as chair and Jenny Scott as vice chair. All right, moving on. We have the annual, well, let me pause really quick. We good, Diana, or do you need anything else regarding that? I think we have, so we got that fidelity bonds. Do we need to do each one of these separately?
No, you don't, because if you look on this page here, you could do them all, one A, B, C, D, and E. You wanna go through the February calendar dates and stuff first.
Okay. So we'll move to point C, B, and E, since we already took care of A and B. Robert entered the meeting at 6:09 PM. So determine the amount of fidelity bonds, principal sum. Do you want to speak to any of this?
So the fidelity bonds are a bonding against those that work with the financials. And the $100,000 bond is the traditional and typical bonding for those. So this is a new item I've seen. I haven't seen it listed exactly as to determine the amount, but that is the standard for North Marion School District for the bonding.
Okay,
Is that a minimum or is that like ORS set?
I actually cannot speak to that. I have never seen a number other than $100,000 on that bonding. So I cannot speak to whether that's a minimum. I can speak to that. It appears to be industry standard.
Yeah.
It is.
For
Merle?
districts that have-
How many people are bonded? How many people are in that situation where?
So typically it would be three. It would be your superintendent, it would be your business manager, and then also your payroll specialist. Right now, due to a transition of having Linda Murray in a support role, there is a short period of time where we do have a fourth because of her access to systems that is slowly being removed as we continue through the transitions.
So that who we're authorizing are those four, but one of them for a shorter time. And, okay, what I remember from last year.
any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fidelity bonds with the principal sum of 100,000 for the 2025-2026 year.
A second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Then we'll go to the budget calendar for fiscal year 2026-2027. And there was links below. Do you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. So thank you both. We, after discussing this as a team, decided to present two options for the board's consideration for the budget calendar for the development of the 2026-27 budget, which seems a little odd that we're already even talking about that. However, due to Oregon budget law publication timelines, we always have to, in essence, build our calendar backwards. So the goal, of course, being that the June board meeting is when the budget is adopted, you then backwards map your calendar. Due to how the May board meeting falls, the publication deadlines with the required newspapers and Memorial Day holiday, we have two options. We could use option one, which is presented, which allows us to meet the budget law timelines with our budget committee meetings being held on May 14th. And then a second budget committee meeting, if needed, on May 18th. With that option, it would present a situation in which the board would be asked to attend 2 board meetings within 1 calendar week. Not ideal, but does provide for the most preparation time for that budget and allowing us to obtain as much information as possible for our funding for that upcoming year. So a lot of pros to that. The con to that would be 2 meetings in 1 calendar week. The second option does prevent 2 meetings within 1 week. However, does require the budget to be finalized and the proposed budget to be finalized and presented in advance of knowing some of our funding for the upcoming year. So while there are definite benefits to not holding 2 meetings within 1 calendar week, there are potential barriers to obtaining the most up-to-date information for that budget. So neither are perfect and both have, great opportunities, both have some potential barriers. We wanted to present those to you. It literally came down to, if we held our first budget committee meeting the week after the May board meeting, the second meeting, if needed, would have to be the very next evening. And that would not allow time for us to take the feedback from the budget committee, make the required adjustments and come back to a second meeting. Historically, a second meeting has not been needed in North Marion School District, so this essentially was a lot of discussion back and forth for something that had not been a need in the past. However, we do need to make sure that we have a calendar that complies with local budget law and publication timelines, since the statutes currently still require a newspaper publication, and with only once a week publications, we are on their timeline. With a holiday in there, that backs the timeline up even more.
So what's your recommendation?
I recommend option number 1. While I know it's not ideal to have a Monday board meeting and a Thursday budget committee meeting, I do believe it's going to result in the most accurate information for the 26-27 budget that is available at that time. To back that timeline up, essentially it's a week and a half. I know that doesn't sound like much, but the movement in early May in budget allocations for the next year, and not to say that it will be done by mid-May, the budget movements. Just the more time you give yourself, the more knowns and less assumptions that are in that budget. We also will be negotiating this spring. And giving us a little extra time to hopefully know where those figures could potentially land, or possibly even, in a great year have some numbers finalized that would. It all plays into this. So while I would love to say, let's just do it the next week and hope we only have 1 meeting, we have to be able to have a schedule that works for the budget committee and the board's determination on that.
Any questions, Blake? Merle?
Not so much a question, can I just make a comment? I had looked at these schedules and drawn an arrow toward number 2 because I liked having more time selfishly, but Kim has sold me, and so I'm leaning to number 1. I haven't thought about how they drag their feet, letting us know how much funds are available. So that makes sense to me.
We had talked about that too, as being a pro of the option 2 of just the time between the workshop and the first meeting would give a lot of digestion time for the budget committee to be able to look at all that. So there's another pro there to that one, but the data that you'll be getting will be probably more up to date with option 1.
Robert, any questions?
No.
Glenn?
No, I'm good.
And
Kelsey.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve option one for the budget schedule.
Sure. Hearing a first and a second, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so then we have the regular business board meeting dates.
And isn't that just normally second Monday of every month?
I think it is. Was there any questions on that, or otherwise I'd entertain a motion?
These are just regular business meetings, and then if we want a workshop. That's separate and it just needs to be posted, like.
Yeah, we can add a
hours in
work
advance.
session.
Okay, I just don't see any on there, I don't know if that's normal or not.
Well, I think it's the second line,
Oh, is it?
like August 11th to 27th.
Oh,
13th,
thank you.
27th. Yeah,
I
no.
see it now.
And then we typically don't schedule in November, December and March, but if we need it, we can.
Okay.
Everybody's feeling overzealous.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the Board of Director meeting schedule for 2025-2026.
Do I hear a second? For accepting approving the established regular business board meeting dates of 2025-2026.
I'll second.
Okay. All those I should ask if there's any discussion, sorry. Okay, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This point of amending the superintendent contract, Jenny, can you give us a little bit?
Yeah, so,
Brief.
I sent out an email with it linked and it's in the agenda. We're amending Dan's contract to be more specific on the holidays. On the holiday and vacation days, it's basically just protecting his vacation to where he doesn't have to take PTO when, district was closed.
Yeah, I appreciate the consideration. At the time that I negotiated my contract, I wasn't familiar with the different, work schedules, the work calendars, who, and the original was tied to administrative, which is not uncommon. So this is just to provide better specificity around the days that the district is closed, not only closed because kids aren't here, but nobody else is working. And so, which is really just what I'm trying to align to. So.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we amend superintendent contract language, if agreeable with the employee to the language that was provided.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any
Who's the
dis-
second?
Like. Any discussion, and may I remind you that particular discussion needs to be done in an executive session around our employees. But I'm open to discussion. Anything?
Yeah, I don't have any questions on it.
I'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And then we have item C is the superintendent advisory work group for equitable experiences and outcomes.
So these are individuals that I've met with. And this is in accordance with Senate Bill 732, which the state refers to as every district required to have an equity committee. I chose to have a longer title for my committee. But I was able to meet with each of these parents and staff members. I think we have a wide diversity of thought. We've got grade levels covered. We have folks that want to see some of our students who are not performing to their potential. We can be more responsive and hear where some areas where we're missing, but these are also people that have a very also big picture perspective on the district and don't want just to singularly focus on one group of students. They want the work to also benefit all students. So I think we have a really a good group of people here that really want to get to work to make the student experience better and have our outcomes reflect kids' potential.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is this just for this year or is it perpetual?
It's a 2-year commitment that we're asking people to
Okay.
make so that we can really kind of get some mileage on that. And so
And
it
then
is.
we'll update
Yeah,
names or
yeah.
whatever as people drop and fall, okay?
Correct, yeah, and so we might expand this to get some more return, expand it for the second year, so we don't just get 10 people leaving and things like that, but we'll see how it goes, but we are asking people to make a 2-year commitment. So that we can get some traction in the work and not having to restart the group every year.
Blake, you had a question?
Yeah, how often will you meet? What will the duration of that meeting look like?
I think they all ask that question, I'm thinking monthly, but probably. I could see us doing, maybe 2 meetings a month early to get some things going, then you kind of hit the holidays probably once a month and then probably monthly thereafter. I really want this group to focus on, what's one thing what's a quick fix that we could do this year? What's something that we could have a sense of accomplishment and what's a longer term, maybe, and I would say probably we're looking at an hour to 90 minutes.
With 6 parents, 2 students and the rest employees, what do you see the students' roles?
I think that hearing from the students as to what they're experiencing and maybe some, really boots on the ground,
Yeah.
like here's something every day that I think, we could get better at.
Sure.
I think also trying to, with both the parents and the students is how they can be ambassadors into their communities to say what they're hearing from their peers. So I think that that's a way to get students involved.
Any other questions? Merle?
Are all 4 schools represented in this group?
I believe so. I'm trying to think of where I might have a gap, but I'm pretty sure I've got every school covered. It's been a few months since I met with them, but I'm almost certain, I was pretty short on the secondary. But a couple of the staff members are in that secondary group, and I know I have at least one parent in the middle school. That's a middle school parent, who also has kids in the intermediate and primary too, so I think we're pretty covered.
Robert, any questions? Oh, Merle, did you have another one?
Boy, I don't need to speak twice. Who steers the group?
I do. Yeah. It's definitely my group to work towards improving, again, for the outcomes of students and being responsive to what we're hearing about their experiences, so. And I could see us bringing this, I think it's even in my kind of list of things to update you on in early fall, is to have some of these folks come and here's like the project for the year that we're gonna work on. So.
Robert? No, you good? Glenn?
Just to clarify, this is not a standing committee, it's just a advisory group, so there's no quorum requirements, correct? Yeah,
Correct.
or public meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And even in response to that, I don't know if this is the governor or legislature did kind of carve this out of all of that stuff, because there was concerns that these would have to be publicly noticed and
Yeah.
videoed and all these things, and districts were like. And depending on the context, this could be a group that could be critical of the district and they want to make that testimony on video. No, thank you.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
So all of that is, this is just a superintendent work group.
Jenny?
None further, thank you.
Kelsey? Mm-mm. All right, I would entertain, is this a board action item?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
We're making a motion to approve the people,
Yes.
okay. Make a motion that we approve the superintendent's advisory work group for equitable experiences and outcomes as posted.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Yes,
One other question there. Are there any nominated who don't have direct ties to the school per se?
No,
Not just a community person that's.
there, I believe, Kelly Carter made her children maybe just coming into primary, but she's a North Marion graduate and coming back to the area and has kids coming into school, but she may already have a kiddo at primary. So,
Does the motion give you enough latitude to draw people in and out?
if I had to bring people in, I would bring it back to the board.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'd entertain a motion for the consent agenda. If you've had an opportunity.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Feel like I'm talking a lot today.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second. And I had a follow-up question.
Okay.
The school psychologist, have we had one before? Or is that new? Yeah,
Yeah.
Replacing somebody that.
okay. And then the basketball coach resignations, have we hired?
We have a boys basketball coach. We're currently in the process of screening and interviewing girls basketball right now.
Anything else? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So board communication. I would like, do you wanna?
No, go ahead, or I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So really wanna, honor and recognize that, first of all, that, our folks went out and secured a grant to have essentially a food pantry available from the North Marion Services team. And so just, I'm not gonna read the whole thing there, but just really appreciate Elena at the school and then Craig and his group with North Marion Services team for making this possible.
Thank you. And the board would thank you for, again, the generous grants. And then moving on to the superintendent report.
All right, so the presentation that I have here on transfers is really, I'll speed my way through some of the data to really get to the last slide here. And declining enrollment, I think it's time to revisit our transfer process and have a more thorough process by which we determine whether we're going to allow students to exit our district. And so the numbers on the first few slides these came from an internal document or internal tracker that we've used over the years. And so, going back, this was not me going back and looking at every single one of these. This was me looking at a spreadsheet with lots of different names and information and trying to kind of notice some trends. And so we had, according to this internal document, we had 31 students request to transfer into North Marion. You can see a majority of them from Woodburn. A lot of them are in kindergarten or possibly new students to the area. And we had one denied from Westland Wilsonville that wanted to transfer to Woodburn. So that was just a little bit of data or trends that I looked on this year of those coming in. Those going out, you can see that we had 48 students request to transfer out of North Marion. The largest number aren't online charters. We're seeing a lot of increase in school districts, starting up charters under kind of their umbrella. And so that is something that Kim and I have had off sidebar conversations on of like, what does that take? Is that something we need to look into? That would be a year-long, if not more, process to look at what would it take to launch something like that. Our largest number was to Woodburn, with the reason being their dual language or Russian heritage program. And then to Canby, Westland, Wilsonville, with childcare being the biggest indicator. And I think the childcare one becomes a difficult one because and I think when we get to the end of this, is really kind of what defines that hardship piece. And is that going to be is childcare going to be, is that the only thing you have to say to get a hardship ruling? So I think that that's something that we're, you know, I want some direction on, but then also, you know, if I do develop a process in a committee, is what does that's gonna probably be our toughest question to wrestle with when we get these. And we did deny one student because of a lack of hardship. The year prior, we had 71 students request to come into North Marion, 48 were from Woodburn, there was one revocation. And transferring out, we had 57 students request to transfer out, again, a majority to Woodburn, for those reasons. We did have 2 denials and 4 were denied coming to be able to leave Woodburn. So there's some data, but really I wanted to get to the last slide and really talk about some questions about. Some of these are just more, almost even rhetorical, is, you know, I think to ask ourselves, what are we doing to have parents want to keep their students in North Marion is probably one of the bigger questions that we need to ask ourselves. As to how do we make North Marion a place where people want to come into, and certainly if they're here, have them stay. So I think that's something for our team as administrators to really. How do we champion the things that we're good at and show people that we're responsive to things where we have areas of improvement? So that's just more of a general question. I think the biggest question is also, what is the evaluation process by which transfers are reviewed and the criteria for approval or denial? I don't really think we have a real clear-cut way of doing that. I think that childcare has been one where it's just been, if that becomes the reason, that becomes the approval, and I think we do need to examine that maybe a little closer. And I guess the question for you is, what would the board like to see if a process or a committee is developed to review transfer requests? So this is really your place to, if I were to bring something back in a few weeks or a month to say, this is the process now, what would you want to see included in that? Or what kind of discussion around this issue would you like to have?
Blake, you wanna go first?
Could you explain first of all what the current process looks like, so we can understand that, and then we can maybe elaborate on it a little bit more?
Well, Diane receives them.
Okay.
And she analyzes them and looks at them, and again, I think, and I'll, you know, most of them are childcare related. There are some that come across where there's been a lot of movement within the family, or there may be some trauma going on to where, you know, where when you look at the statute around a hardship, it definitely meets it, and we approve those. And so, but beyond that, it really has by and large been whatever comes in gets approved. So there isn't a lot of teeth being, you know, netted or whatever you want to say that we're gonna deny these. Or at least try to dig in deeper as to what's the barrier beyond childcare.
I've heard other school districts are starting to evaluate that more. Could you expound a little bit upon that?
Yeah, so, you know, I've had conversations with Canby in particular, and they have similar experiences being bound to a lot of districts of wanting to leave, and so I think within enrollment, they're saying they're starting to say no to just about as many as they can.
Sure.
So I think that this is timely in terms of if other districts are going to start saying no to transfers, that we ought to probably follow suit.
Anything else? You good?
Yeah, I'd just like to hear what folks think, and then maybe
Mara?
add to it.
It is hard to get hold of. We use the term revocation, or we use the term denial. You mentioned hardship, as though if there's a hardship, it's pre-approved pretty much. I get that impression. And if there's no hardship, however that's defined, then we can say no, which is very few of the times. I think we need to be consistent and more objective, probably, but I don't feel like I have a good handle on what's actually happening and what the dynamic is here. Generally, I like parents to have something to say about where their children are educated. Generally. And I realize we want students too. And I think there are several things I agree with you that administration and we as the board are interested in creating an atmosphere or a persona in the community that causes people to say, oh, North Marion's a good school. I want my children to go to that school. And our youth truth survey or some of the other things we've done scores us high on student relations within the school, that they feel accepted, they feel nurtured here. But academics is a challenge to us. And to some extent, sports programs and those all feed in, I think, to people wanting to be part of it.
Good observations.
Robert?
I do think Merle's right on with only just because my child, we transferred out along, before my kids were even able to come in. But it was all based on better opportunities at another school and sports and all that good stuff, so. I do think parents should have a free choice in where their children should go. Even though it's hard for maybe a school like North Marion, that may be struggling, but I think all schools are. But I think that just puts it more on us to make our school that much better. We should make it once so people want to be here.
Glenn?
I'll just comment like Merle, I worry about perception of unequal treatment. And potential liability that could bring down the road. If we're not being consistent on what we're doing this, I would just say consistency and, having it as transparent as possible process.
Jenny?
Yeah, I wonder about a committee, like what does that look like to you? You not looking at them or?
No, I think it really is probably a smaller team. And that's why, kind of hearing some of this feedback around, I heard consistent and objective, worried about perception of unequal treatment. So if I was to bring something back to the board that didn't make those fears necessarily go away, but alleviated some of those fears to what that would look like. But I see like a team of 3. I don't see this as being a very big committee, but did the hardship check all of the boxes that say, yes, this is, and it's kind of that look and go, yes, that is one. So, because otherwise I think if it's just me or Diane and it's just a yes, no, what does your gut tell you sort of thing, then that opens it up to kind of you very much for a lack of consistency. And not that that's happened or anything, but there's not a group of people that are evaluating it against a preset criteria.
Yeah, I would echo what everybody else has said, having a process that's consistent, that's predictable, to where as a parent, I can go in and say, okay, what is the criteria? And if I know I can't meet that, then either I'm not asking or, we're having a conversation. I think transparency is a big key too, but.
Do we currently still weight keeping families together?
Do we what?
Like we provide a higher weight for keeping families together. So if we have somebody from one school, we make it
Those are not denied.
so they're not, yeah, okay.
If they have a sibling.
Yeah, I should know if that was already.
So in other words, so like if we have a family that we've historically allowed to go to, let's say Canby, and they had another kindergartner come in, we would deny there because we have a new practice when we have a whole family going to Canby. Is that?
That's sort of what I've understood we've done in the past.
Sure.
And
We have.
probably some clarification or some, language around that. I'm all in agreement with keeping families as together as possible, so I get the weighting of that and the, you know what I mean? Not split, I would hate to see.
Yeah.
The district be the reason why you're splitting families going to the same school, so.
Chelsea?
Do transfers have to come in before school starts? Like, are they all throughout the year?
It's all throughout the year. I mean, obviously, there's this is a busier time or like the end of the last school year, but there are some that come in the middle of the year.
And then, do they state the reason and where they want to go on their paper?
Mhm.
You could they give that information?
Do they have to reapply each year?
No,
Once it's done, you're done,
yeah,
and
Actually,
there's no
transfer
way to
laws-
reopen that. Go ahead, sir.
Transfer laws don't require them to specify a reason to transfer out. Some will write it in if it's on their form, and some don't.
How come the specification of hardships in there then?
Mhm.
How come you specify hardship if there's no reason?
My form to transfer out does say this is optional.
Yeah.
And so most of the time I'm able to get that information, but it's not always provided.
Do they, when students choose to do online or homeschool, that's not a transfer, is it, or just another different public
Process.
school?
yeah, so obviously homeschool we can't stop that. They can elect to do that. They're expected to enroll with the local ESD as a homeschool student. Not always does that happen. And then the online, there's a certain margin that you have to let out and then beyond that, you could start limiting it, but we just have not ever attempted. We've just approved all of the online requests and treated it essentially like a homeschool.
And if a homeschool student wants to go to somewhere else, do they have to come back here, request a transfer out, or once you're homeschooled, then you can bounce somewhere?
They would have to get permission to leave from their homeschool, yeah. And I just wanna make sure Blake's question was accurate when we said if once they're out, then they don't have to reapply every year.
That is correct.
Is that North Marion's protocol or is that statewide?
It's statewide. I have seen, like, for instance, Tigard Walden will allow them out until fifth grade, make them reapply again. So for like, transition from elementary to middle to high, but we had never done that.
So at this point, is there any way that you could recall everyone that's been already granted permission to leave to say, hey, we're forming a new process, or is that not how it works?
I don't think so.
Yeah, just wondering what that is for,
Most of my
Upcoming
letters that say you're
requests.
approved out says you're approved out until graduation.
well, there you go.
And then when a district accepts them, their approval will say you are approved until graduation.
I would wonder what state law is, specifically what it says. I'd wonder what neighboring districts do, because that's where usually transfers go. What's appropriate to ask, what's, none of our business. But I think there's a bigger conversation. We have looking at this spreadsheet, there's a lot of kids in online school. Like, what's that gonna take? Is that something that, with some years of planning and saving, is that something that we'd be interested in doing, or even the dual language? I mean, it seems like there might be some opportunities that can make North Marion, as great as it was when everybody was like trying to get into the district.
Well, it would be ambitious.
For
but-
sure.
But especially with the dual language, having been a principal in a dual language school before,
Yeah.
I've seen how powerful it can be. It does take a lot of planning. I mean, I was at a middle school and I had the fortune of the district office telling me the incoming kindergartners are in a dual language program. They will be in your school in 6 years. Start planning now. And, they also gave me the green light to hire some people, some bilingual staff before the kids even got there,
Yeah.
which was huge. So, but I do think that we've got some great models next to us in Woodburn and in Canby, to say what are the key things that you have to do to build a dual language program? I think it would be great.
Canby, got one of their dual language programs.
They did.
a budget cuts.
How did they?
And my last thought was, do we still have daycare At the primary, we do, okay, so, oh, alright.
Wait.
One other comment on it, if it's all right there. With my limited experience, in the last couple years of being around North Marion, my kids go here, but I don't spend a lot of time in the school. I had the opportunity about 6 months ago to receive a tour to go through the high school. And even though I drive by it daily, I was amazed at how nice it was at what was offered. And I think so many times, in education, we can maybe not market things in a way that we're trying to sell people, because you start treating school like a business to some, and it sounds kind of, it can feel uncomfortable because we're talking about kids and education. But I think there's so many great things we have. For example, over Father's Day weekend, we had the 4A baseball tournament. You think all these folks from all over the state come here because there's a beautiful baseball field. And so you start looking at all the positive things that are happening. And then you look at a new superintendent, a new direction, and all these opportunities that are out there. I think we need to do a better job. And I don't know if that part of it is, okay, you're requesting to leave. Have you came and had a tour at North Marion to see what opportunities there are? Have someone that's a dynamic individual that has time to go and loves North Marion, to have them take them on a quick school tour and see what that looks like and talk about it. Or maybe it's something that they could pop in and just in our own business, for example, we would probably do 300 or 400 tours a year all over from the country, all over from the United States and Canada that come to visit our business. And either my uncle or myself as owners try to step out and meet each one of them. So if it matters to them, just like if someone could come in and pop in and meet someone, a principal or a superintendent, to just say, hey, great to meet you. So they feel like there's more of a connection there. It's easy for me to say that sitting here in this chair, but I think in a smaller district, there are ways that we can market ourselves and try to draw the community in and use this as an opportunity to keep people in the district if possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, you had, if you remember back a few months ago, we had a public testimony over that power of those relationships, and I think that that's exactly kind of what we need to be doing to market ourselves, better. Couple things I just wanna, Jenny, you talked about state law, so I'll make sure that that's part of when I come back to you. Also, neighboring districts process. So I've been in regular conversations with the Canby superintendent. And her and I talked about maybe networking with this little circle of districts to kind of look at what do we have similar in our processes, and trying to actually champion each other's districts and not get into poaching and things like that, to say, have Canby say, hey, North Marion's got a great school district, you need to stay in North Marion, and that kind of vice versa sort of thing, so that we're not competing or have a sense that we're competing for kids. So I will look to that. Total side note, has nothing to do with this topic, but it's something Blake said. I just want to plant your seed that on October 9th is going to be homecoming. And it's Thursday, and we're planning to have all of our athletic events starting at like 4 o'clock, ending with the football game at 7:30. The statewide teacher in-service day is on the Friday, but we are planning to have Husky Extravaganza. We're gonna come up with a better title than that. But that's what I'm calling it for the time being. Yeah. So, and, with barbecues and different things, but it's an opportunity to really get people in our schools and showing. So I don't know how we can incorporate some tours into that, or making sure alumni that come back for all of those things get a chance to see and feel a part of something. Because literally we're gonna have girls soccer, boys soccer, volleyball, football on that Thursday night. So it's gonna be awesome. All of them. Now, people tell me logistically, I haven't come up with all the details, but I come up with the ideas, and hopefully other people have the logistics. People love the idea, it's like, gotta get some volunteers, so. Anyway.
I'll just chime in on this one piece and say, transparency, clear criteria. and process.
Mhm.
So everybody is held to the same expectation. And then also, I would love to hear more information about what it looks like for us to have our own online school. Cause I think that's just gonna be here to stay.
Alright, so I know that in my June board meeting, I kind of gave an outline of what could be expected for the next few months. And I also, right before this meeting, I started jotting a bunch of things down that are gonna be in our next board meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have the transfer one done 2 weeks from tonight, it's just, so, just letting you know.
It's okay.
Alright. Alright, so the next one is the governor's executive order 2509.
So as people request transfers right now, will it be how it was previously done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the bell-to-bell cell phone ban, I just linked a couple of documents in there for the public and for you. It's really similar to the last topic and just kind of want to get some of your thoughts, hear some of your concerns. I had Diane reach out to OSBA to figure out when we might get a sample policy, and it's 2 weeks away. I've also had some conversations with board leadership around policy adoption, and we have a really good system here over the last year of having policies reviewed at work sessions, some discussions, revisions, and adoption. So if you think about that there's no way this is happening in 2 weeks. You know, to have to get this policy from OSBA, bring it before you, got the, yeah, you know, opportunity for public comment, those sorts of things, so. I don't foresee us having a policy in place until September, maybe even the first board meeting in October. The deadline for you to adopt a policy is October 31st, so. I'm not concerned about not getting a policy adopted by that deadline. I think the piece that school principals are thinking about is making a change mid-school year. And so I am meeting with our principals tomorrow. They just started back today. And what I'm gonna be asking them for is based on the FAQ and the resources that are out there, what changes and practices do they see happening within their schools in order to be compliant, let's say by the start of school? So that in 2 weeks, I can come back to you and say, this is what it would look like to be different at the elementary, the intermediate, the middle, the high school. What changes and practices would have to occur to be in compliance without a policy to say, and get a kind of a feel from you, you know, should these restrictions go into place if, before the start of the school year? So puts us in an awkward place where we'd have practices in place before policy. So.
We do have this policy, correct, on regarding cell phones?
I was looking at,
There was something.
There's something in the handbook, I know.
well, we have things in handbooks.
Middle school.
And I think we have, you know, I think schools historically have attempted to make restrictions and whatnot to access, so. And I don't think that certainly for the primary and intermediate, I don't think we're talking about big changes. I'm not sure how much of a change in middle school we'd have to have. The high school will need to have significant changes. So I don't think we have to have a policy to have something in a handbook. I think that when. You know, you guys are the adjudicators of policy and things of when complaints come, I just want to make sure that. What our schools put in paper for their handbooks to start the year are not so. Far from what's been done that we get a lot of backlash, but also realizing we do have. An executive order that we need to follow and needs to be enforced effective January 1. So, You have to adopt a policy by October 31st. It has to be in effect by January 1, so.
All right. Like, unfortunately, you were sitting at the end today. Robert switched you spots. So, do you want to get us started? Any questions?
Yeah, I
comments?
do. I just, as I read it before the meeting, it talked a little bit about discipline and not being able to take away from student time in school for, could you kind of give an example of what discipline looks like for something like that, just to educate?
Well, that is not uncommon with some of these policies, and basically what they don't want is what you call exclusionary practices, where a kid would be. Suspended in school or out of school suspension or expulsion for an infraction like this. I think the big question becomes between, when someone is insubordinate over
That's
the
what I'm
issue,
asking, what do you-
where making sure the discipline would be for insubordination versus cell phone possession, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I think that, we deal with that with a lot of issues. When, it's kind of when you're determining between the can't or the won't.
Sure.
When someone, you want to make sure that they understand the rule, they can follow the rule, but when a student is demonstrating that I'm just not gonna follow the rule, then the consequences do probably need to look different. So that's what they're intending to say there, is they don't want students excluded from their education over this issue.
Anything else?
Be interesting to see what's put together on it.
Yeah.
Merle?
Now, new question, I would be much interested to hear from parents on this subject. It strikes me as somewhat the same genre as COVID and masking, that some are against it and some overwhelmingly for it, each having their own reasons and not bad reasons necessarily. I would lean toward later rather than early. I think it's not too detrimental to start after an extended break over Christmas. And I say that partly because these things have a tendency to change. They've just come out. Parents haven't gotten the impact of it yet. Young people are ingenious about circumventing. I'm not for making it any more authoritarian than it needs to be. I know cell phones are a detriment, screen time is a detriment, but
Robert?
Well, I'm very opinionated.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Merle, you good?
Well, I'm pretty opinionated on this one, I think, but in my business alone, I can't stand I see my staff. They're following this and they see me come, they do this. I just can't, I hate it. So, and it's a huge distraction for my patients coming through. So I think the faster we can get rid of that, the better for the teachers. I think they'll have a little more control of the class. Kids can be getting a better education. I just think overall, I think myself, I would want to start earlier. I also want to know what does it look like for the teachers? Where are they, is it the same policy for them, or? Because I think they're just they offend that just as much. I don't know about here, but. Is that policy for the teachers as well, or just students?
Well, we definitely, I think we have an employee handbook coming out, and it does talk about making sure that we are, being engaged in doing our work in, in the classroom. So is it going to be the same for students? No, or for staff? No, but what's the expectation around performance and being engaged in the work of educating kids? Definitely has to happen.
Anything else? Glenn?
Solidly with Merle, this is just ripe with all kinds of pitfalls. If we're first out of the gate on this, we're gonna get sued from the feds. If we're last out of the gate on this, the state of Oregon comes down on us. It reminds me of making employees get vaxxed. And then the district gets left holding a financial burden when there's a liability at the end. I just see all kinds of problems with this. Again, I agree with you, Merle, I think it's a problem. But when grandma or grandpa dies and you can't get a hold of your child in a timely manner and they hear about it from somebody who did. Because I've seen that happen in my own family. It's. I mean, that's just a situation that, that's one situation. Kids are enormously innovative. To me, that we're applying a solution that isn't even close to keeping up with the technology that's out there. So, sorry, that's just my opinion, but I think if I think we'd be very careful about implementing this until it goes through the court system, because I think this has all kinds of appeals on it.
Jenny? I don't really have anything new to add to what everybody has said. Yeah, I don't want to make our teachers the police people of it. I don't think that's fair. I would wanna make sure that it's spelled out for everybody. I wanna make sure that there's enough teeth in it that teachers are able to do their job without a lot of intervention, but it's been touched on. Kids are getting around the firewalls and through security, and back in my day, we were writing notes. That was our distraction. Kids are always gonna find a way to be distracting. I think the question is how do we minimize it? I mean, if parents know that it's a problem, hey, let's tell you about downtiming your phone, or, doing the parent controls on Google. There's ways that you can, as a parent, help mitigate the distraction that your child has. I think for me personally, I have one child who would definitely be very distracted in school with his cell phone, and another one, it wasn't a problem. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be, I'm a wait and see what everybody else does first to identify the gaps and problems, but. Elsie?
I think everybody's addicted to their cell phones. I think we would have more success and greater scores and if we weren't so distracted by our cell phones, but I hear everybody's thoughts and comments and. Yeah, I mean, I have 3 kids in the high school and some struggle with it and some don't, and some are on it all the time, and I know as a parent, I can downtime them, but I don't know. I don't know. It's a tricky one for sure.
What do you think?
Well, I would agree that cell phones are probably the #1 distraction. I myself love my distracted cell phone. #2, I do think that it impacts our children's ability to learn. But also, I'm not sure that this has our best interest in mind from the governor. I mean, I think of a type 1 diabetic who has their alarm on their phone and you can easily not know. And I know that's written in here, but then I wonder if we're outing everybody's medical HIPAA components of you shouldn't have to have the discussion on why you have your phone. So, I'd be interested to hear what Nathan has to say as the new high school principal. I think that's where you're gonna see the biggest impact. I'm also gun shy with being the first out the gate and having a beginning. I don't think we have enough time for success, and I wanna know what success looks like at the high school level. Because my biggest concern is inconsistency. And then it becomes an issue with teacher performance or which teachers are popular, and it becomes a popularity contest. And I do not want that to happen. So those are like my big concerns. But I do think we would benefit with the children having phone restrictions, but we definitely need a parental partnership where it's not going to be us vs them, like in the masking.
Yeah,
So that's my thought. Yes.
Do you guys know which schools are implementing? As, right, cause I have patients that are coming in with kids and they're saying it's from day one, their school's implementing it, so, and they're having to put their phone in some type of bag. I don't-
Yeah, so there's a few districts that have been out there in front of this issue a little bit more that have, purchased, and spent a lot of money to provide different storages
Yeah.
and do different things there. So I think those districts have already placed tighter restrictions on that. There's other districts that really want to have something in place before school starts. And in those communities, they are hosting parent sessions for parents to come to the board and do those sorts of things, because I think they're taking a pretty strong approach to that, so. So I've seen a little bit of that in a few different districts of wanting to have something firmly in place, but I'll say it also incredibly resourced. In terms of, we're gonna make some investments to purchase some things, and I am not convinced that those things will fully solve the problem or are a wise investment on our part. Certainly not to do that between now and the start of the school year. So,
Any other comments? Merle?
That's certainly true, that the cost factor, I think some of the numbers and ODE suggest those to us $20,000 or more
yeah,
for some of those devices. And the other thing that has slipped my mind earlier, that this issue went before the legislature in a bill. And they argued it and said, we're just not ready to deal with this. We voted down. We want to leave that. We think the local districts should have something to say, and I think they should have something to say. As you mentioned, Portland Public Schools, they have a policy, they restrict it. We can do that too, without someone mandating that we do it just this way. So I personally resent it that the governor then says, well, I don't worry about the legislature, sine die, 3 days later, I sign an executive order and this is what you're going to do. I would rather they be convinced to bring it back at the short session, emergency session in August and revisit it, but if that doesn't happen, we certainly have to do something. I think there is a little wiggle room in that order. There's ways to work that around perhaps to where it's more agreeable for our district. And I'm willing to take a few liberties on the edge of things to do that. See what happens.
So I would add that I think this is definitely, as a board, just my personal opinion. We definitely need to champion our partnership with parents at home as we're gonna structure this. Because I don't think that handing down a dictation is gonna go over well. It wouldn't for me anyways. So I think like that needs to be at the forefront.
Yeah, my other question would be, specifically at the high school, we have a bring your own device. So what does that look like?
Yes,
Are we
yeah, Jared
now?
does use a lot of his own.
Yeah, I know mine did too, but bring your own device. Now you are on the Wi-Fi, but you can still get around and do things and, even in the middle school, they're on the Chromebooks doing things they shouldn't be doing.
I've got a few videos.
Yeah. But it just. They're not emailing the entire district to subscribe to their YouTube channel.
I think we all can agree this is just gonna be a difficult path forward, yeah.
Well,
It's
yeah,
challenging.
I'm gonna ask you again, would you rather see this not in policy? Or would you rather see policy around this?
well, I think that if you're going to you know, the comment I made about being adjudicators early, I'd rather have something that I know that if we implement and a complaint gets filed, I have something to measure that complaint against versus just, you know,
Just
so.
a handbook.
So from that standpoint, I like to have a policy so that I have a measuring stick when a complaint comes in, so, so. I think. What I started with is that, well, what I'd like to bring back to you in 2 weeks is, what does this make, what changes go into place at our schools if they were to roll something new out in September? What would look different in the schools, substantially different at each of the schools? I think that, well, while yes, regardless of it, I'll step back and say this, regardless of this executive order. I could almost guarantee you we're gonna see some differences at the high school this year. The high school staff have been asking for a more consistent policy on cell phones. So, and I can. You know, Nathan's gonna be here in a couple weeks to give that, I know that will be something that he will talk about as far as. Trying to have better consistency across all classrooms as to what does cell phone policy look like, so something was already going to happen at the high school. I can almost guarantee you, so what does that look like? I don't know. So. I think that right now is for us to be able to visualize or think through. What would change look like if we tried to do something different in September in all 4 schools? Is a good place to start.
I don't think I'm necessarily opposed to doing it in September to change. But I just wanna make sure that we are highly communicating with our parental components and our guardianship components, that we have consistency among all teachers, so it's not a pick and choose scenario. I mean, these are the thoughts that I'm like concerned that we can't get that done in 30 days.
Agreed. I think that all the things that were the concerns around, you know, I think that whenever you do have something that feels authoritarian is going to bring out people wanting to push back against that. That's just normal human behavior. So I think that thinking through that and championing what do, you know, getting parent voice involved and how do we partner with parents? How do we think through the pitfalls that, you know, Glenn talked about? Those are all good in policy development, which is never fast, by the way, you know, so I think that I'm hearing there's not an urgency, which I'm fine with. I also just want to be able to say, if principals say, hey, I want to make this adjustment to in our own school handbook for this year, I also want to feel like they've got support too. So.
Yeah, and I would add, like, I'm not against, I think cell phones are probably the absolute worst, you know, most time waster, most disruptive.
Yeah.
Force in schools right now. I just. And with more like, I don't know, the way, this approach to it. Just has so many problems for IC, you know, for what I see. I mean, I serve on the board and.
Yeah, it was brutal.
If we adopted certain policy on that board, we were going to be sued because it was in violation of federal.
Yeah.
And this is to me, this is you know, we're getting really, really close to that sort of, you know, I mean, when does the ACLU come in and say, well, are you limiting free speech? I'm not saying that's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm really not saying that the kids would have a better educational experience if they didn't have their phone open all the time. But, you know, there's, this seems a little out there to me, so.
I'm enacting at home, so I started it at home. It's the only time I've ever been there.
Anytime, and when things feel rushed at times to me, I think it's good to take a second, breathe and maybe let some other districts maybe see how the process and challenges they face, how they encounter them and deal with parents, and I think there's some value in seeing how things play out a little bit, so. I just never like in business feeling like I'm into a corner where I have to decide this second right now, and it hasn't been thoroughly thought out. Try to be pretty methodical in our approach, and I probably feel the same way in this case to kind of evaluate some of those options before having it go rushed.
And I have asked Glenn he's going to the August OSBA conference. I have asked him and he agreed, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
if there was a session on this cell phone, just to go and sit in on it and listen to what other districts have to say and what the OSBA has to say, because I assume this will be a hot topic table at least.
Yeah.
Probably a packed 50-person hot topic table, but
Standing room only, right?
yeah. So we'll look forward to that update as well.
All right, so the last item is really to help us review the board superintendent agreements, and possibly board leadership and I will be either looking at these to see if we want to bring something back for the full board to consider in new agreements. So I sent you some questions. I'm not sure if my instructions made sense or not, and speaking of devices, I can't be in two places at one time, but I sent you. Anyhow, in that first three sections, which really is about how you operate, communicate, is there anything in there that you would like us to look at or revisit?
Is there anything that you'd like us to look at and revisit?
Well, I was gonna focus my attention at the superintendent's expectations of the board. I have not noticed anything and throughout this that has been violated or has been a problem, and I certainly don't feel like there was an issue that happened this year that now we need to address and bring something new in there. So please hear me that I'm not suggesting we need to do anything different. This is really for, especially in 1 through 15, that for the board, is there anything that you as board members, I just don't want to make any assumptions that.
Well, I will go first. So in number 4, it says the board will participate annually in establishing goals and objectives for themselves in the district. And I think last year, we were really, really productive. So we productive our way through all the policies, hiring our superintendent, getting so much on the books that we didn't really take time to establish goals and objectives. And as I'm reading that, I'm thinking and I would want the whole board's opinion, but I'm thinking how do we align that establishing goals and objectives to really be laser focused in continuation with the new strategic plan? And so it's not oh, let's do goals each fall, and then we'll look at them again the following fall. If I have a goal, I like to have action based around it and see where I like to hold myself accountable. So I don't know what all of you feel like, but that would be one, I would be open to saying if we participate annually in establishing goals, then I feel like there needs to be a second component that at some point we look at action item. You know what I mean? I need to have a goal so that we can pull it out and be hey, we did this. So, I don't know, that probably wasn't very clear, but I'm processing it.
No, I agree. I think when having goals just for the sake of having goals it's not helpful. It's just, I don't know, it tends to maybe be busy work. It should be something that's measurable, specific, achievable.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like we already do a lot of the things, but if it's, the goal looks at, hey, we're gonna ask for data and review data 3 times. and compare that to our strategic planning, you know, then we're holding ourselves accountable, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I don't know if that belongs here or if that's like a sidebar conversation, but that was the only thing that really kind of brought it up. And then self-evaluation is actually optional. And we didn't do one last year, and that's just self-reflecting. But I just want to say it calls it out that it's optional, so I don't feel like we've not met that. But anybody else have anything on that first or second session? Not to hijack, yeah.
No, that's exactly, I mean, that would be like. That'd be one that maybe is board leadership that we could flush out a little bit more. So if there's another one in the, within the 15 that struck somebody, we could work on that. All right, not hearing anything, so is there anything?
Jenny, last
I
minute?
was just gonna say, you know, when we developed this last year with Phil, Phil Logger, the board chair at Scappoose.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
That was so great. It was so
Yeah.
great to talk through that and really understand what a good agreement is, and I feel like we did a great job in developing this and understanding it. It's pretty thorough in my eyes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Go ahead,
I
Nora.
made a note about the time frame. I've noticed before that board members are free to suggest agenda items for the
Mhm.
meetings. But the requirement is that they be 5 days before, and by 5 days before, we don't know what's on the agenda, and I realize that doesn't keep us from being proactive and suggesting something, but it's just a pretty narrow time frame. I don't know how you find it, but by the time I get agendas and information and so on, I'm pretty stretched to read them, much less think about them. And be able to bring good input and.
Do you wanna see that like a longer, I think that's part of
but
our.
I
policy.
realize that's not easy to do either, because things come up. Have to get out to it, so, yeah, I could see maybe a shorter time frame for us to get a piece of information in, and maybe a day longer for us to have the agenda ahead of time, but it has to work on both ends.
Well, I would say. As board leadership, and I'm speaking for you, Jenny, you at any time can contact either one of us to request an agenda item. Like Heidi did, I think. Was it March? She asked for that security update, and we
Mhm.
made that happen in like, or April, and we are right in the thick of things. But we made sure that it was on there like the end of June. So it might not be like a turnaround time of that tight. But if you have some burning interest in something, please bring it forward and we'll see where we can schedule it in or have that conversation. Between, you know, like you, Dan and I, Jenny, and see if it fits into the agenda, because I'm very transparent and open to. What
Yeah,
other board people would like to see on the agenda item, like, I don't feel ownership over it.
and we need to be aware that, you know, sometimes when we ask for things, it's causing staff time, so
Right.
it has to be kind of scheduled. If it's just like a, hey, we heard about this a couple months ago, is there any follow-up? You know, that's easy enough, but yeah, feel free to always ask for something.
And I agree with your comments, both of you, about more measurable, more specific. It's hard to get down to that sometimes, the goals, and well, they're just kind of up there somewhere, and we never know if we are reaching them or not. I need help too,
Yeah.
getting them down to a simple, more concrete level that where we can know if we're making progress or not.
Mhm.
Anybody else? 1 through 15?
Well, I would change out Heidi's name for Blake's name on this, but
Yeah.
otherwise, that's it.
Nice catch. So on 16 through 20, and this may be awkward, so if you would rather just email me board leadership, that's fine. But if there's anything around board expectations of the superintendent. You know, happy to get your feedback and or take your suggestions.
I think you do a stellar job at number 19. Just
And
throwing
20,
it out
yeah.
there. Oh, I hadn't read that one yet.
Oh.
20.
Is this the, I'm sorry, is this the last section? I don't, next to the last?
Yeah.
Next to last.
Next to the last, it's the second one. Oh. I apologize, I might have moved a ruler by accident. On the shared doc, I might have, sorry.
Well,
So-
I would just say that I think superintendent does the best of jobs informing us of what's happening, what to expect, and getting information, at least I feel that way. Never a lack of things to read from superintendent.
I'll take that as a compliment. All right. Well, if there's nothing else on that section, I just want to take a few minutes on 21 through 25. That I just want to say that in reflecting on this, I couldn't be happier than, feeling like number one, that you recognize me as the educational operational leader of the school district. I feel that support. I feel like during this last year, during budget reductions and layoffs, that there was, while that's I'm not necessarily a failure of the school system, I think that is having your support in such a difficult decision was really important to me, and I didn't feel like I was standing alone with my teammates out there. I really felt like that really felt your support. I also felt your support in 2 really critical hirings this year with our new principal, our new business manager. Really felt like the board had my back and participated to the degree possible. I really feel like UT treat our team as professionals all the time. You all do a good job of remembering, always assume that Dan doesn't know everything on number 24, to inform the superintendent of all critical information and issues in a timely manner. Always assume I don't know. And you do that a very good job, and abide by its own rules, adopted district policies and this agreement. I really, really appreciate that. That I never have to worry about individual board members or as a group, that you're not trying to abide by your own rules, your policies and this agreement. Which kind of leads me into, the thing that I put the last question is. And I'm not sure if I have a really good idea about how to make this more, part of our meetings, or how do we not just put it on the shelf? Granted, we did need to bring it out this year, which is great, but I also don't want to get to that point where if there ever was an issue that's where we go to. So I don't know how we might incorporate this into some more of the regular business, not to belabor it. Not to just have it as a speed bump. I don't know. I just think it's something that, how can we make it a little bit more present in our meetings? So, I mean, one idea I had was just to pick one. I could pick one of the things of the board to highlight at each monthly meeting. Maybe there could be one board member who says, I really want to highlight this particular one. Spend no more than 5 minutes collectively on that and just make sure it's always being revisited. That's one idea I had. So I don't know if there's other thoughts out there. I'm not trying to add more to our agendas either.
Anybody? You good?
Well, I'll work with board leadership on that and we'll come up with something.
All right.
Or nothing. I don't know.
Guess we'll take
We'll
some
see.
homework.
All right, let's see where we're at. Okay. Are we ready for a financial update?
We are, yes. So, well, I just wanna thank everyone. I'm very, very honored to be here at North Marion School District. This has been an incredible few weeks, getting used to things that are very familiar yet very foreign, just due to some system changes, those sort of things, such as Gmail is giving me some fun, but working on my Outlook to Gmail transition, but really looking forward to the staff and the students returning over the coming weeks and the, you know, getting that reminder of why we're here and what we're here to serve. So tonight, wanted to share, you know, I'm always very cognizant of your time, keeping the focus of our meetings on our agendas and items at hand. But I also think it's extremely important to keep the board and our community members up to date on the financial activity that's going on in the district. For the next couple of months, we're continuing to work in 2 fiscal years. We are, throughout the month of July, continuing to close out the 2024-25 school year. We work on a modified accrual basis, so that means there are some costs that come in at this time of the year that are charged back for expenditures that were actually incurred. The actual expense was incurred before the June 30th cutoff. We had our interim audit after 3 days at my desk. We had 4 or 5 staff members in the building for 5 days. That was a real quick figuring out where things live, and really thankful that Linda Murray was still available to help guide us on that. But that was very successfully completed, and looking forward to them returning for the final audit in mid-September. And then, of course, the launch of the new year. All of our financial systems are rolled over, underway. All, you know, what we do is we make sure to record our encumbrances, which is, of course, identifying those expenditures that we know we're going to be incurring. We know we're going to pay power bills every single month, and we can estimate, to the best we know, rates. We can estimate what those are going to be. We know what our staff costs are going to be. So by encumbering those, it allows us to project where will we end the year. And of course, those encumbrances are modified and adjusted as actuals come in all the time. We have a lot of significant costs up front in July to ensure we have things such as our liability insurance policies are paid up to date, our workers' comp policies. So we have a number of costs that go out in July, and then, of course, as our staff come back, the majority of our costs turn to investing in our people through our payroll costs. So in the future, you know, over the next meetings, such as in August board meeting in just 2 weeks, I'll be bringing to you a preview of some financial reports that you will begin seeing starting in September. I'm going to be able to provide you a glimpse into what that looks like, an overview of what you can expect to see at each of those meetings, so that you can all stay abreast at a high level in a presentation, as well as maybe some supporting more deep dive information that would be available through links in the agenda for people if they want to get into a more granular detail on that. So really excited to be able to share that with you, and what helped develop what that financial communication looks like throughout the year. I feel like, you know, making sure you have that information is absolutely critical, so that you guys can make the most informed decisions while you sit here and you know, have to make some really difficult decisions about how the district moves forward. So tonight, in lieu of a traditional financial report, I want to share an update on the status of some of our federal funding. This federal funding I'm referring to tonight includes some title grants, as well as our Individuals with Disabilities Education Act grant, known as IDEA. Altogether, these make up about $900,000 in budgeted revenue, and of that, 95% of those funds are allocated to our personnel. As of today, just one of these grants, the Title 1A grant, has a final allocation. 2 of them, we've received preliminary allocations, and an additional 3, we are awaiting the allocations. Typically, these are announced on July 1st, and up until last Friday, I really fully expected to be sharing with you that we did not know when those allocations may be announced. However, literally on Friday, we received notice that the U.S. Department of Education will begin releasing those funding amounts this week. So Oregon Department of Education receives those statewide allocations and then determines the distribution throughout the state. So at our next board meeting, I anticipate that I should have at least preliminary allocations on those that are currently showing in the delayed status. And I really wanted to share this with you tonight to emphasize the critical role that active budget management is going to play throughout the year. Tonight, you were tasked with adopting a calendar for a period of time in which we develop, we propose, we approve, and we adopt a budget. I just want to be very clear that that process never truly ends, and that is going to be part of those financial reports that you're going to be seeing, is that, you know, the only guarantee in our budget development is that the minute it's printed, the minute it's adopted, it's going to need to be modified and to be massaged. So that budget's a guide, it's an authorization for expenditures, but it's that living document that we will be continuing to monitor and adjust as appropriate. Just as shown in this grid, certain grants may exceed our budgeted revenues, and some may not meet our projections, and we will adjust as necessary. Specifically, this one shows that we expect our Title I allocation, Title 1A, in which we roll up our Title IV allocation into that as well. We expect that that will exceed budgeted revenues. However, at this time, the preliminary information is that we may not realize the amount that was projected for the IDEA revenues in the budget. So it's just emphasizing that we realign our budgets to these actual specifically grants, but also, of course, in our general fund throughout the year. So again, those financial reports you'll begin seeing in September will support this very goal, ensuring that we operate fiscally sound, that we adjust to unexpected changes as they will undoubtedly come our way. So with that, I look forward to sharing more information with you next month, and welcome any questions you might have for this evening. Blake?
It looks like the variance is a positive about $9,450.
Currently, based on our current information, it is fortunately a positive total
So that's a
variance.
better variance than the other way, so.
It definitely is, and that is, you know, and while the funding in each of these programs is what is called restricted funding, it is very specific. The fortunate piece is that if you have one program whose funding comes in a little healthier, you might be able to alleviate some costs out of the general fund, but unfortunately, then that general fund may need to support those costs. But yes, the net positive right now is definitely a little bit of a breathing room. However, of course, we also have 3 other programs for which we do not know where those will come in, and so, yeah. Earl?
No comment.
Robert?
I'm good, thanks.
Jenny?
No question, just a comment. I really like this format. It's clear, it's nice.
Thank you for that feedback. It's sometimes difficult to take something large and
Yeah.
provide the appropriate level of detail.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Kelsey?
Thanks, you.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm looking forward to many more. The only thing I would probably ask is if you would want to put your name on this document so you could take credit for your work.
We all work together as a team, but I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Kim? No? Okay. Anything else?
No.
You're good?
Yeah.
We will adjourn at 7:41 PM. Like I do have a document for you to sign.